Ever wonder what it looks like when love comes to town? Well, it might look a little like this.
Finally here tonight, everybody seems to be talking in a very quiet neighborhood. Here's Steve Hartman on the road.
At the far end of Islington Road in Newton, Massachusetts, lives a little girl near and dear to the neighborhood. 2-year-old Samantha Savitz is deaf, but boy does she love to talk to anyone who knows sign language. Her parents, Raphael and Glenda.
Yeah, she's super engaging. She wants to, chat up with anybody.
Yeah, her whole personality changed when it's someone who can communicate with her.
Likewise, if someone can't, well, that makes Sam just a little sad. Her desire for engagement has been painfully obvious to everyone in the neighborhood. Whenever they see her on a walk or in her yard, and Sam tries to be neighborly, they find themselves at a frustrating loss for words.
I didn't know what to say back. Wouldn't you like to talk to her?
Basic conversation that one would have with a child.
Asking her about her day.
And make her feel that she is part of the neighborhood.
Just be her friend.
Unfortunately, this isn't something you can solve with a casserole. You'd need the whole community to learn sign language, just for a little 2-year-old girl. You can't expect neighbors to do that. You can only appreciate them when they do.
On their own, Sam's neighbors got together, hired an instructor, and are now fully immersed in an American Sign Language class. The teacher, Reese McGovern, says this is remarkable because a lot of times even the parents of deaf.
Here, Sam has a full community that's signing and communicating with her and her family, and it is a beautiful story.
And he says this level of inclusion will almost certainly guarantee a happier, more well-adjusted Sam, which is why her parents say there aren't words in any language to express their gratitude.
It's really shocking and beautiful.
We are so fortunate.
In fact, they say they're already seeing a difference in their daughter.
You should see her when she comes in at the end of class.
The first thing she says to us is, friend.
I think your heart would melt just as mine did.
Sometimes it feels like America is losing its sense of community. But then you hear about a place like this, where the village it takes to raise a child is alive and well, and here to remind us that what makes a good neighborhood is nothing more than good neighbors. Steve Hartman, on the road in Newton, Massachusetts.
He gets me every time, every week. That is the CBS Evening News for tonight. I'm Jeff Glor. Have a great weekend. We'll see you on Monday.
Watching that all week, and it gets me every time. Right? I mean, that's what it looks like when love comes to town. And don't you want to be a part of something like that? I want so badly to just be a part of something like that. I mean, it's amazing what a group of people can do, even if it's just a small group, when they organize for good. And my friends, that's what this whole Jesus thing is about. I mean, it is important that you have a personal relationship with Jesus. But if that's where it ends, then that's where it ends. Jesus invited people to more than just a personal relationship. Jesus invited them to be a part of a movement, to be part of something bigger, something that made a real difference, something that might actually change the world. You know, the world ought to know when Jesus' people are around. I mean, they ought to be able to tell. Things should be different. Things should be better. When Jesus' people show up, there ought to be more joy. And there ought to be more compassion. I mean, you ought to notice when love comes to town. Today is the day in our story that love came to town. It's Palm Sunday. It's the day that Jesus arrived in Jerusalem, proclaiming that God was bringing a different, a new kind of kingdom to the world. And here's what I want you to notice this year on Palm Sunday. Jesus did not show up on Palm Sunday by himself. Jesus' people showed up with him. Palm Sunday is not just about Jesus. Because Christianity is not just about Jesus. Christianity is about the movement that Jesus invites us to be a part of. Christianity is about the people Jesus brings with him. It's about the crowd. It's about you and it's about me. Because it's really easy to take this Palm Sunday scene, the waving of the branches and the drum line and the excitement, and make it all about cheering Jesus on. It's really easy to believe that people crammed the streets that day to applaud Jesus and to be grateful for what Jesus did and be thankful for what they thought he was going to do next. It's really easy to take Palm Sunday and make it into a spectator sport. But we, the people in the crowds, are more than just people cheering from the sidelines. Bridget and I moved to Detroit in the summer of 1997 from Wisconsin, and you all were Red Wing crazy. You were crazy in 1997 about the Red Wings. You were nuts about the Red Wings in 1997. Hockey Town hadn't had a Stanley Cup. In those early years, you were getting closer and closer and shorter, and we got here, and it all started to come together. That's because we came to town, right? We were the missing piece. I just want you to know, right? And then, but there were so many amazing stories going on in that 1997 team. I mean, here was this long-suffering city with this long-suffering team that embraced 5 Russian immigrants in the early years of the Cold War and said, these boys are our boys. I had a PlayStation in those days, and I used to play hockey with the Red Wings, and Bridget will tell you, at night, all she heard over and over was goal by Fedorov, goal by Larionov, goal by Slava Kozlov. She didn't even know who they were, but that's what we were hearing over, because I was as good a coach as Scotty Bowman. I just want you to know. I was just as good a coach on that PlayStation, right? I mean, this was this amazing team. It was hard-working, and it was tough. And when Colorado, I mean, we moved here the year when Colorado showed up in town, I mean, you let them know who the boss was, right? And your love of the captain. Thank you. I saw all of you out there going, does he know? Does he know? Yes. You wanted Stevie Y to get his cup. You couldn't go anywhere in the town that year without seeing Red Wings stuff. Flags were flying from the top of cars and from offices. People got all caught up in it. You even dressed the spirit of Detroit in a Red Wing jersey. And when the Red Wings swept the Philadelphia Flyers and brought home that Stanley Cup, this town went crazy. It went absolutely crazy. And we arrived that summer just in time for the parade. It was really nice that you held that for us, right? And there we were that first summer, lined up with 2. Some of you were down there, a part of that parade. Michigan, and we weren't even hockey fans. We weren't here for all the long suffering and the near misses. And except for my playing on the PlayStation, we wouldn't have known the name of a single one of those players. And yet, we got caught up in the excitement right along with you. In the hope and the joy that that team brought to the city. We wanted to be a part of that. So we grabbed a Red Wing flag and we waved it right along with you. But there is a difference. There's a difference between the Red Wing parade and the Palm Sunday parade. You see, the Palm Sunday parade isn't full of just excited fans. Jesus doesn't need a bunch of fans. He doesn't need a bunch of folks who are watching and cheering him on from the sidelines. doesn't need people who are willing to buy his merchandise or wear his gear or fly his flag. No, we are not fans. We are followers. We are a part of a movement. We are a part of a movement that makes Christ's love real and visible to the world. We are supposed to be what it looks like when love comes to town. I mean, here's what I think really happened on that first Palm Sunday 2,000 years ago. You see, I think Jesus and the people that came with him, I think they had a plan. I think they organized. They were going to show up in Jerusalem and show people what it looks like when Jesus' people show up. They were going to show people what it looks like when love comes to town. So they didn't just bring palms with them. They all brought food. Canned food and dry food and stuff that could go in all the neighborhood food pantries in all of Jerusalem, because when love comes to town, there is enough to share with everybody. And here's what else I think. I think they brought stuff to make sandwiches with. And I think after the parade, they got together and they made enough sandwiches in order to take care of the food program for the next 90 days. Because when love comes to town, nobody goes hungry. And here's what else I think. I think they all brought dozens of pairs of socks with them, because they heard that the Noah Project in Jerusalem hands out socks. And when love comes to town, here's what else I think. I think they passed around a list of all the widows in church that needed somebody to show up at their house in order to help clean their yard or clear their gutters or repair their porch. I think a whole bunch of them showed up at Peggy Gill's house, because anybody would show up to love and support Peggy Gill. When love comes to town, things get fixed. And I'm pretty sure a small group of them. Because they heard there was one little girl that needed to know that God loved her, and there was nothing she could do about it. This is the biggest difference between being a fan and being a follower. When the parade is followers go to work. When the parade is over, fans go home. When the parade is over, followers roll up their sleeves and they go to work. So come be a part of this movement, Jesus says. Come be a part of this movement that's making Christ's love real in the world. Come be a part of this movement that is changing the world. Come show the world what it looks like when love comes to town. Do you know who it was that was in the crowd that day? It was the people Jesus had spent his entire earthly ministry inviting to be a part of this movement. See, I mean, that's what Jesus did. Is he invested in people. He found people that never got invited to be involved in anything special in their life, and he found them, and he said, God has a plan for you, Bob. Come and be a part of this journey. Do you know, that's why that story of that little girl gets me every time. It's because the people in that neighborhood, they saw her. I mean, they and they decided that they would learn a new language in order to make sure that she was included too. Palm Sunday is the day that I get the privilege of reminding you that Jesus sees you. Every single one of you. And then Jesus and Jesus' people would learn a new language in order to make sure that you knew that that love was meant for you too. And that's what we want to be about here at Royal Oak. We want to be a part of a movement that brings love to this town, so that this town looks different because God's people are a part of this town, and we think God is inspired to deliver to the world. I'm wondering if you know what it is. We're kind of subtle about it today. I don't know if you noticed. If you drove in today, maybe you saw the message around the building today, right? We believe God's given this church this unique message. That 12 words, God loves you and there's nothing you can do about it. Sure, it's catchy. Yes, it's corny. But its truth is simple and it's powerful. That no matter who you are, where you've been, what you've been through, who you love or who loves you, that God loves you. And that there's a place for you in this movement. Don't believe me? Ask Mike. This is Mike. Mike's here a couple of days a week. Mike volunteers with an organization called Therapeutic Rehab. Mike has a closed head injury. That closed head injury has affected and changed Mike's ability to fully function in the world around him, but not here. Not here. Under the loving care of our custodian Fred, who is really an angel in disguise. Mike is not known for his disabilities around here. Mike has an ability to share joy doors of this church every week, and he's just glad to be here, and he says, what can I dust or clean today in order to make God's house shine? This is what it looks like when love comes to town. 2,000 years ago, people showed up in the streets and they waved palm branches to say, this is a part of the movement that I am with today. And today, we're asking you to take a simple message to the community around us. We printed 600 of these signs. Take one home with you. Take two home with you. Take all three. They can, one of each color. And put them in your front yard. Imagine 600 messages going out into the community that reminds people that God loves them and there's nothing you can do about it. Imagine the buzz it might create in this town. And if one of your neighbors asks about the sign, give it to them. Then come back here and get another one. And if we run out, we'll make more. Caleb and I were putting the signs up on the front yard, and we put that great big sign on the front of the church. And we got into dozens of conversations with the pictures of the sign or to stand under it and get that message. Take the message out into the world. Our buddy Mike took one home with him. That's Kennedy and Capri. Their parents took one home with them, and I got permission to share their picture in church today. Because the truth of the message is one that people want to carry to others. So friends, I'm simply asking you on this Palm Sunday to let the world know that you're more than a fan. And don't just to roll up our sleeves and remind the world that this is what it looks like when love comes to this town.